the size of his victory is greater than Hawke ever achieved. It's greater than Kevin Rudd achieved in 2007, and that was a very big Labor Party win. It was greater than Gough Whitlam in the 1970s. You have to go back almost to the Depression, the 1930s, greater than Chifley in World War II. So in Labor Party terms, he will become a hero of the Labor Party because this is a size of a victory which has rarely been achieved. And that means that the likelihood of him winning a third term is now very high because he's now so far in front that it's much harder. The task for the Liberal coalition opposition will be much harder next time than it was now this time in 2025.
Now, we didn't do well enough during this campaign. That much is obvious tonight, and I accept full responsibility for that.
But they forgot to offer the solutions so that people agreed with the opposition, perhaps, that life was tough and, high inflation and housing crisis, lots of other problems. But the opposition needed to go further and convince the electorate that they had the answers to these things. And in the end, it was the government rather than the opposition who was able to say, well, yes, we admit times are tough, but we think we've put forward a positive set of policies to move forward. And the opposition were just left with their grievance and their anger and their negativity, which in the end not only was not enough to win seats, but they went backwards, seriously backwards. Cost of living was a very important factor, and the government could not escape the fact that many ordinary Australians are living a very tough economic life at the moment, as are many people around the world, of course. It's not just an Australian problem. There's a housing crisis, there's an inflation crisis, there's a cost of living crisis. So that the fact that there seemed to be some signs of improvement on the horizon and a stabilising of the economic situation was an important factor. I think we can't neglect also that the spectre of Donald Trump and the new American presidency has had quite an impact on Australian politics, somewhat like it appears it had an impact on Canadian politics just in the last week or two. And I think there's two aspects of that impact, well, three perhaps. One was the turbulence and the threats to Australia by Donald Trump's tariff policies and the instability that has followed that. I think incumbent governments perhaps benefit from electors, voters who think that stability is very important. And Anthony Albanese handled himself very well in reaction to the developments in the United States. Carney and Anthony Albanese will be much more confident in defending their countries and speaking up. They now have new mandates, they've just been elected, and fresh elections. So I would think it would not only affect elections, but it would also affect the dynamics between Australia, between the rest of the world and the United States. And I would expect to see that everywhere where the tariff policies and the other economic policies and just the attitude of the American government to the rest of the world, the dismissive attitude.
25 has over 6,600 graduates. You're the largest class in school history.
There's been a problem with Peter Dutton's getting too close to some of the themes that Donald Trump has introduced into American domestic politics. The so-called anti-woke theme, anti-diversity. He's made some comments there. He's talked about large cuts to the federal public service, which echoed to some extent what Elon Musk has been doing in the United States. Now, these were only faint echoes of what has happened in the United States, but Peter Dutton and his team found themselves, and Peter Dutton himself found himself unable to break free of the association with Donald Trump. I think we've gone through a trend where we thought that the Trump victory was going to be a number of victories for conservative parties around I'm thinking of Europe in particular and North America and but around the world generally, I think. Now Trump's actions have turned that on its head, I think, and it's given new hope. To summarize, I would say we're in a new ball game. 2025 in the Trump era, the next 4 years, could see some quite startling different results in elections around the world. And I think political leaders around the world it will be very risky for them to identify themselves too strongly with Donald Trump, even with his style or with his strongman, alleged strongman style.